Hi everyone and welcome to SWPL My Story, and today we are joined by Chloe Logan. How are you doing, Chloe?
Hi, how are you?
I'm not too bad. You're the first goalkeeper that we've had on here, so expecting big things. So were you training this morning?
Yep, training this morning. We obviously just had our game yesterday, so it was a bit of a light one this morning. But it's a quick turnaround. We've got a midweek fixture this week, so we're looking forward to Spartans on Wednesday. So yeah, a lighter session today. Prepare for the game tomorrow and then play on the Wednesday night.
And try and keep the good momentum going that you've had. Top of the league at the moment, most goals scored.
Yep.
Good way to go.
Yeah, it's a good start. I think we'd be happy with the start that we've had if you'd asked us that a few weeks ago. I'm obviously disappointed to have went and conceded that one at the weekend.
Yeah.
But that a goalkeeper's always disappointed with that, aren't they? But yeah, hoping to just continue with that momentum, hopefully score some more goals, but I think it's important that we try and kind of tighten up on things defensively going forward, because it's a big kind of month or so ahead for us.
So what we're here today is to talk about your career and how you've got to this point. You ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Good stuff. So when you started out playing, where was it, and were you a goalie when you started playing, or is that something you grew into?
No, so I wasn't a goalkeeper when I played for my first team. It was just my local boys club, Port Glasgow Juniors Boys Club. A few of my school friends played in the team, and so when I wanted to join a team, it was just really easy to go there because I already knew some of the boys. Of course, I was the only girl in the team, and I played outfield. I played centre mid at the time. I think I kind of played of a holding midfield player, but that's because the boys would just run up and down, and I was happy just to kind of stay in the centre circle. But yeah, so I started outfield. I then, it was primary 7, I played in goals for a kind of school game where it's your primary 7s against the teachers, end of term. And I wanted to play the entire game, and I would only play if I played in goal. So I was like, okay, I'll have a shot. And it was on a red kind of ash pitch, and I was diving about stupid. And I had a great game. And a girl was playing for the staff who played for Celtic.
All right.
And she says, Chloe, I've got to get you a trial. So would you be up for kind of going and trialling as a goalkeeper at Celtic under 13s? And I was like, I don't play in goal. She was like, go have a trial. So I went and trialled in goal for the first time, and they obviously seen that there was something there. And I was asked back, and I started training in goal from the age of 12.
So it was after that one experience of being in goals and you thought, this is a bit of me, this diving about.
Yeah, I mean, I always was diving about when I was playing as a kid, and so I guess just getting a ball involved, I had no fear. I would be diving at teachers' feet in the game, and so I had a great time playing in goal. Goalkeeping training is always so much fun as well, so I enjoyed it, and for me at that age, that was the most important thing.
So then you've signed for Celtic at that point. Was that a big moment for you? Was that like this could really be going somewhere? A proud moment for your family, I expect, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think when the option came to sign for Celtic, I was a bit unsure at the beginning, if I'm being honest. I don't come from a Celtic supporting background. That being said, my dad, who is one of the biggest Rangers fans you'll meet, encouraged me to join the Celtic Girls Academy because he knew it was what was best for me at the time. He wanted me to develop and to grow as a player, and he knew at the time that Celtic Academy was the best place for that. So although he's a big blue nose, he kind of put that aside to look at me, and I'm really grateful that he did.
So then you've came fully into the academy at that point, and each of these interviews that I do and I speak with that many players, they always talk about their time coming through the academy, whether they're there for 1 season, 4 seasons, 5 seasons, whatever it may be, as being some of the best time of their football. That's where they make their friends, and those are players that they continue to play with and against for the rest of their careers. Was it the same with you? Yeah,
definitely. I think from the age of 12 to 18 I was part of the Girls Academy. Won lots of trophies. We were such a successful under 14s, under 15s, under 17s teams, and you kind of progressed along, I definitely progressed along with the kind of same kind of core group of players, and so you obviously get to know them pretty well. You get good relationships there, and definitely you get like friends for life when you go through academies with kind of players of a similar age. So yeah, it was definitely an experience that I'm thankful for.
Who were some of the players that were in there that are currently playing now, either with you or against you?
With or against me, I think there's players there that I wish I could have played more with. You know, I got to experience playing with Fiona Brown, Chloe Arthur, and then there was players like Emily Thompson, who doesn't play anymore. You know, players that I think others haven't had the experience of playing with, I'm very thankful for. And as well as that, from a young age, I was training alongside really experienced players and role models and players that were in the national team. You know, you've got like your Rhonda Jones, Suzanne Grant, Gemma Fay, and so those kind of experiences were just, at the time, I might not have realised how great it was, but looking back now, I'm so thankful for it.
And having those first team players as you're coming through the academy, that's where you want to be, and these are role models for you. People inspire you to reach those levels. Were there women in that team that you did look up to?
Yeah, definitely. I think I went through under 13s, 15s and 17s kind of relatively quickly. Absolutely loved it. Obviously developed as a player. You know, you're jumping from that small 7-a-side goal into the big 11s, which was definitely a learning experience. But then at 16, I was in training with the first team. And so, like I said, you've got Rhonda Jones. I was training one-to-one with Gemma Fay, who is the club and international captain. You know, that's an experience that not everybody's had. And again, I'm grateful for. I've learned a lot from that. You know, she was such a personality and a character and a leader in the changing room, and although I was probably a wee quiet mouse in the corner of the changing room, you know, I was watching what everyone else was doing. So, you know, I was training alongside national team players at 16, and they definitely, without probably realising it themselves, impacted me and impacted my career.
So that brings us on nicely. At 16 is when you made your first team debut.
Yep.
Against Rangers.
Yep.
Doesn't get much bigger.
No. So my first team debut, I came on as a substitute for Gemma against Rangers at Petershill. We ran out 3-0, kind of comfortable winners. I think I touched the ball twice when I came on, but those 2 touches I celebrated like I was scoring a goal. So yeah, I remember it well. And my dad was proud of me, and he found it funny who it was that I was playing against as well. So yeah, making my debut at 16 in the Premier League was a proud moment.
So when you're coming off the bench and you get the shout and you're standing there waiting to go on, how were the nerves?
I think the nerves kicked in when I was asked to go warm up. And I was like, are you being serious? I was looking to check if Gemma was injured or if there was a problem, but no, I was just kind of getting a bit of game time, and obviously the nerves start kicking in, and I'm stripping up, putting my gloves on. But I think once I'm out there, you're kind of submerged in the game. You're not thinking of, you know, what's going on round about you. You're just so focused on what's happening then and there that I wouldn't say I was nervous on the pitch, but definitely before it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is about to happen.
Yeah, it tends to be once you step onto that pitch, it blocks everything else out, and you're fully focused on the game at that point.
Yeah.
And when you're 3-0 up, when you're coming on, that also probably helps as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would have came on if it wasn't 3-0, but yeah, I was definitely happy to get on.
So you then came to a point when you were at Celtic where you decided it was time to leave.
Yes.
Was that a really difficult decision for you?
It was and it wasn't. It was obviously difficult because I was comfortable here, and I enjoyed playing here and being here. But at the same point, there were so many things in my life that made it a no-brainer to move on. At 17, I went to Stirling University, and at Stirling University they also had a team who were competing in the Premier League. At that time I couldn't drive, you know, I didn't have my own car, and so commuting from Stirling to Glasgow each day would have been quite difficult, obviously doable, but difficult, and another stress that I didn't think I wanted at that time. And so the offer came from Stirling University. They asked if I would sign for their Premier League side. And for me, it just made perfect sense for me to be living, studying and playing all in the one location. And it's definitely a move that I'm really thankful that I made.
So you've made the move to Stirling University. What were you studying at the time?
So I signed up for a Bachelor of Arts with honours in Sports Studies. So that was my undergraduate degree for 4 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. like earlier when you said you make friends for life during football academies, I also done that while studying. You know, I've got great friends that I've made through going to Stirling University, both teammates and kind of classmates. And so, yeah, there's people there that I still keep in contact with today.
And how did you find the demands of trying to study to degree level? You were playing SWPL football with the uni team. You were also playing in the Bucks team as well, so that's every Wednesday too.
Yep.
So there was a lot to try and juggle there.
Yeah, it was a very, very busy schedule. You know, every hour of the day I had something scheduled in, so I learned how to be organised pretty quickly. But yeah, as you say, I had both Bucks sport and Premier League sport to be playing, so I'd be training a Monday night with the Bucks team, a Tuesday night with the Premier League team. I'd be playing a match on a Wednesday with the Bucks side, which sometimes could be down at the south of England. You know, you were all over the country with that. Then training again Thursday night, training again Friday night. There were some Saturday morning sessions in there as well, and then of course a Sunday fixture as well. And that was just like my football schedule. So that was hectic. Throw in a degree, throw in gym sessions, throw in part-time jobs. It was all go when I was at uni.
And I bet now that you look back on it, you can't believe that you were able to manage to fit it all in.
Yeah, I don't think I could go back to that hectic lifestyle. But yeah, like I says, every hour of the day I had, you know, a schedule to stick to because I was just so busy with everything. And I think because of that, it made the time go by really, really quickly because there was always a game to be focusing on in like 2 or 3 days' time. And I think that really kind of progressed me as a goalkeeper, playing twice a week. Because of course as a goalkeeper you can play in games where you're not that involved, but having, you know, 180 minutes every week I think really developed me as a player and a person, and so yeah, I'm really happy and grateful for that.
You had a really successful Bucks team, didn't you? I'm going to let you tell us everything that you went on and done.
We've done quite a lot.
Yeah.
Our Bucks team was very successful. It was a great squad. There's players from that squad who are still competing now in SWPL 1 and 2. There's players who have, you know, returned home down south back to England and are still playing kind of championship level football. So our team was a really good squad, and we won almost every trophy there was to win. You know, we won the Scottish League, Scottish Cup, and with Bucks Sport, if you win your Scottish League, you can then go into a British League. So that's why every second week we're travelling down south to play English universities, and it was a great experience for us all because you obviously bond on those long bus journeys.
Yeah, they're the best bits.
Sometimes, or the worst bits. But I was one of the ones who was driving the buses. So like we as players and coaches had to drive too many buses to these games. So it was again just another part of a kind of hectic lifestyle. But again, I wouldn't change a moment of it.
So when you were attending university, especially in the early stages, there was national performance.
Yeah.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that, what that entailed, how demanding that was?
Yeah, so my first year of university, I was 17, and I went to the university as part of the National Performance Centre. It's now based throughout Heriot Watt, but for my first year, it was the Performance Centre's last year at the university in Stirling. And I was really happy that I made the decision to go there. However, I do think that I was maybe not ready at 17 years old to be in that environment. And so when we found out that they were relocating to Heriot Watt, it was again a no-brainer for me to stay where I was because it meant me moving city. And again at 17 with no car, having to rely on other people, that was a big move. It also meant that I would have to change what I was studying and go back a year. Instead of completing my first year at university, I'd need to go back and restart again. And so for me, it was an easy decision to step away from the Performance Centre and just focus on my studies at the time and my Bucks and Premier League football. So again, I'm really glad I did because I don't think I would have liked to have went to Heriot Watt.
Now, you spent a good number of seasons there at Stirling, and when your studies came to an end, there was probably a decision to be made for yourself. I know we've just spoken about it, that you joined Stirling Uni. They were obviously competing in SWPL 1, so it made sense to make that move. But as your degree comes to an end, you're maybe going to be moving. You maybe had other options there. So what was it really that meant that you felt that it was time for you to move on?
Yeah, I mean, I spent 5 years playing with Stirling University, and I spent 6 years studying there. I stayed on and got my master's degree in sport management, and again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I think when you know the time's right to move on, you kind of know. I had kind of achieved all I could in terms of football. I got what I wanted academically. You know, I had an undergraduate and a postgraduate degrees that I would look to use in the future for my career. And then the move came about coming back to Celtic through Eddie Black. He asked me to return to the club and train for a little bit, and I did. And I remembered that it felt like I hadn't been away, and I thoroughly enjoyed it and decided to re-sign again back here at Celtic. And it was one of those things where the timing was just right for me.
Now, how did that feel when you've just said it felt like you hadn't been away, but it felt like you'd come home to an extent, that this was the club that you grew up through? There were still players that were there that grew up with you, so it was probably a happy day when you came back to Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, I came back and there was still some of the same staff members here. You know, it was the same facilities. It was like nothing had changed, but I had changed a lot, and so I was able to kind of look at things slightly differently. You know, I'd had so many experiences under my belt now that coming back here, I felt ready to push on at the club. Whereas before, you know, as a 17-year-old, especially a 17-year-old goalkeeper, I don't think you're ready to kick on at this club. You know, you need certain experiences, and I think I had those experiences under my belt, and that really just fueled me and got me ready to kick on coming back to the club.
Now, a lot had changed, not just at Celtic, but in Scottish women's football as a whole, because there's been a lot more investment. They were growing the game. The push was to go full time, with a lot of these clubs, Celtic being one of those clubs that was looking to do that. So how did you see the difference in when you were here first time round to when you returned?
I mean, I think the first time I was here, everything was as professional as it could have been without the professional status. But returning to the club, it would like everything had just been fine-tuned a little bit more. So at the club, you know, things were really coordinated. There was, you know, a clear plan in place. And coming back and seeing the aims and ambitions of the club, you know, it was definitely a decision that I was happy to make coming back here, because I wanted to be part of that.
Now, when you came back, you've talked about how hectic your schedule was with all your training, studying, working, all that entails. And then when you do return, you become a full-time professional footballer. Yep. So did you not know what to do with your time when that happened?
No, not really. So I think I came back for about 6 months before the professional contract was offered. And of course, it's not a contract that I'm going to turn down. Yeah. So I think for me, the biggest thing with being a professional football player is you have the luxury of time to recover, time to eat properly. You know, whereas at university, I was, you know, eating a box of pasta in the car, you know, going down the motorway trying to get to a football match. Whereas, you know, being professional, you have that luxury of time. So it's something that I know not everyone gets to experience, and so I'm very thankful for it.
And on your return, it became a really successful time for Celtic. I don't know if the two are related, but you then started really picking up in the domestic front, League Cup and Scottish Cup double on your return. How was that? Am I right in thinking, other than university stuff, but that was your first trophies? Yeah,
they were my first senior trophies in the game, and they felt a little different. You know, first senior trophy, big moment for me, and I didn't actually play in the final, in the first final, but I was there, I was on the bench, I was encouraging the squad as much as I could, and I think as a whole squad we all felt part of the win, which was a great feeling, and it's something that, you know, I've still got the medal, it's in my living room. And then the Scottish Cup, going and winning the double, is just something that we were proud of as players, as staff, but also the club as well. You know, it's our first in our history. Hopefully there's more coming in our future. But yeah, definitely a proud moment for me.
Now, probably goes from such high highs to probably the lowest point of your career. You get a Scotland call up. 2 days later, you tear your ACL, and you're out for over a year. How did you contend with that? Obviously, not even just from a physical side, because you've got the support here at this club to help you physically recover, but mentally to get yourself from down there back up again and focused on making a return.
Yeah, it was a very, very strange week for me. Tuesday I found out at training. Fran told me in front of the rest of the squad that I'd got my call up, which was a really kind of surreal moment. And if I'm being honest, it hadn't really sunk in, which I think helped me. So come the Thursday evening match in which I tore my ACL, it hadn't really sunk in that I was going to go away and train with the national squad. So I'm happy, because I think I maybe then processed it a bit easier and found it easier to accept, because I didn't believe that it was going to happen. So yeah, it was a very stressful week for me. But things happen and you just have to push through them.
So from your injury to your first match back, you were obviously back in training. Prior to that, it was 15 months.
Yep.
A long 15 months.
A long 15 months.
a lot of watching from the side.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things where when you find out that you've torn your ACL, along with a few other things in my knee, it's a long stretch ahead. And so you obviously go through your rehab. And when I got back onto pitch training, Pam, our goalkeeper last year, was having a flyer of a season. And so I wasn't getting a sniff. Rightfully so. She was absolutely brilliant. And so I was just enjoying being on the pitch again, getting involved with the rest of the squad, just diving about like a loony again. Yeah, like you said, a long 15 months. I think I made my debut back at Petershill, again, the pitch in which I went and tore my ACL. I think that was a deliberate move by Fran to play me on that pitch. But yeah, it was just nice getting back out there, getting the boots and the gloves back on, and feeling part of kind of that match day experience again. I only got to experience once last season, waking up on a Sunday morning knowing that I'm playing, knowing that I'm starting, and that was a feeling that I definitely missed. So yeah, it was a really long 15 months.
Now, it's so high profile, particularly in the women's game, the number of ACL injuries. There's a lot of research going into it at the moment as to why women are more prone to it than their male counterparts. But do you feel that the support network is there? Obviously, you've seen it from Celtic's side, but obviously you know women throughout the league, and they've also had these types of injuries, and they're all out long term. You're in a very fortunate position that you're full time. But it happens to other players at other teams who maybe don't have that backing of their club. Do you think that that's something that as a nation, maybe a governing body, that needs to be looked at to ensure that the support is there for these players?
Yeah, definitely. Like the entire time that I was going through my rehab, I knew how lucky I was that it was my full-time job to get myself back onto that pitch. I know previous teammates, friends who have went and had a similar injury, who have been out for just as long as I had, but have been doing their rehab after their 9-to-5 job, and who have been having to struggle through their rehab perhaps on their own or without facilities or any kind of the support that I've had. So, during my entire time, when I found myself maybe getting a wee bit frustrated with how long the process was, I reminded myself of just how fortunate I was, and I know that I was in a great position to come back from it. I think it's something that you see now every other week. A player is popping up with an ACL injury. I personally don't think my injury was anything to do with the surface. It was more the mechanism of how I landed. But I do think surfaces play a massive part in it. And even if the surface is okay, we're going from one type of AstroTurf to a different type of AstroTurf and back again, like every other week. So I do think that plays a big part. I think there needs to be more research into it. I don't know what the answers are. I don't know what the solutions are. But I just know that it's something now that's getting more high profile, and it's a shame almost that so many players have had to get injured for it to be highlighted to then get researched into. But hopefully something good comes from it.
Now, you did thankfully manage to overcome your injury, and you made your return earlier on this year. How was that feeling? You've said that the day that you woke up on the Sunday and you knew you were starting, you had a game that day, but when you actually walked out for kick-off, you must have been overjoyed.
Yeah, it's a feeling you can't really describe, I was in matchday squads for a couple months before then, and I'm obviously there to support my teammates, and I have a job still to do on the Sunday, but it's not the same as knowing that you're stepping onto that field. You're representing this club, you're representing your teammates, and it was definitely a feeling that I forgot, and that when it happened, I enjoyed. And there's still a kind of element of that today when I'm playing in games. I still remember it, like, God, I'm happy to be playing here right now.
You sometimes maybe not taking it for granted before, but now you're more appreciative of every time that you are getting to play. Yeah,
definitely. I think I appreciate a lot now. Just stepping out onto the field, I could be doing nothing for an entire game, but I'm still so happy to be out there. It could be a really hard, difficult training session, but you know what? I'm so happy to be out there. So I definitely think I appreciate a lot more things now that I've had, a year of just not being able to be myself, and now I'm back being a football player, and I'm back being myself and enjoying it again.
Now that brings us now to this season. We're 2 games in, 2 wins. How's the feeling around the club?
Yeah, good. Of course, we got off to a more or less perfect start. We've scored lots of goals. We've played some good football. I think you can definitely tell in the camp that it's only 2 matches in. There's still kind of relationships to develop on the pitch. I think if you watch us, there's maybe moments where we're a wee bit rusty, but I think that's just something that kind of gets ironed out over time. So being in the position we're in now, scoring lots of goals and feeling a wee bit rusty, I look forward to what's to come, because I do think we're going to develop, we're going to get better and better.
Now, more than just the domestic side, you're playing in Europe this season. It's coming up in a few weeks' time. Is that something that you're really looking forward to?
Of course it is. I was lucky enough to play in the last time we were out in the Champions League in Norway, and we're going back to Norway again. So we went out there last time and we put in some good performances, but we didn't think we got the results that we perhaps deserved. So I think for us just now, it's about obviously using domestic fixtures to get points on the board, but it's also about preparing for that as well, and I think that's where it becomes important that we develop those relationships on the pitch, because when we go for these Champions League games, it's going to be a massive test, so we need to be as ready as we can for it.
Excellent. So the question that everyone worries about when we do these is when you're probably going to fall out with some of your pals because they're not going to fit in your team. So you've had a fantastic career so far, still lots more to come, and you've played with some brilliant players.
Yep.
But if I'm putting you on the spot and asking you to pick your 5-a-side team, 1 goalie, 4 outfielders, can't pick yourself.
Can't pick myself.
Can't pick yourself, so get ready for your phone to light up when you leave some of your friends out.
And it has to be a goalie and 4 outfielders.
It has to be. You can't play without a goalie.
Okay, so I think for 5s, the first name that sticks out to me is Kelly Clark. She's our captain and leader just now, but she's so composed on the ball. She's got a great finish when she wants. So the first name on my 5-a-side is Kelly Clark. And you know what? She can play in goal as well. She's great in a 5-a-side goal. So I wouldn't mind her swapping round and going and goal for a while, 'cause in a small goal she's absolutely brilliant. So I'll definitely pick Kelly first. I think to go and goal last season, Pam was incredible for us, and so I think you've got to put it in there. Those big long arms of hers would work wonders in a small-sided goal. So I think if we go Pam and Kelly to start, I'm then going to go with another current teammate. I'll go with Amy Gallagher. So yeah, I'll pick Amy G in there. She's got great close control, and you've been seeing in the games recently, she's got a great finish as well.
4 goals in the first 2 games of the season, not too bad.
Not too bad at all. I then think, so is that 2 more now?
2 more.
I think I'm going to go for 2 players that I'm lucky enough that other people might not have played with. I'm going to go for Julie Fleeton, and I'm going to go for Suzanne Grant.
Bags of goals.
Loads of goals up there. Loads of goals up there. Yeah, so I think that would be a decent 5s team.
No, I think it's got a good balance, that team, I think. So thanks very much, Chloe, for having us along today, and thank you everyone for watching SWPL My Story.